Great. So you're in France and now you're lactose intolerant. Oh, hi. Welcome to my channel. It has been a very long time since I posted a video. I post shorts of my cats all the time, but I have not posted a video. And has it been a year, 6 months, 8 months? I have no idea. I am not a professional YouTuber. Welcome to Wisconsin. It's winter. It's fucking cold here. It's 18 degrees. God, ridiculous. So I have kind of a gross video, but also kind of an educational video that I wanted to post for wants to look at it, just because it was such an unusual experience that I went through, and I wanted to share how I got through it and all the things that happened along the way, just in case it might help someone else. First and foremost, I am a doctor, but I am not that kind of doctor. So if you are experiencing any symptoms, please check in with your primary care provider. So, because that is not me. Anything that I share is just my own personal experience and what was recommended to me by my care team. Your care team may recommend something different. So just putting it out there. This is a video about my experience with SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, and it sounds disgusting. The bacteria in the small intestine is in the wrong place, and it shouldn't be there. That's really the moral of the story. So how did I get this? And then how did I find out that that's what I had? So let's back up an entire year from today. I was traveling home from my hometown after the holidays, and I got home. Everything was great, felt really good. And then in the middle of the night, I got sick. And I will spare you the details, but it did not last very long, maybe 2 hours. You know, I was a mess. And I was like, well, that was kind of odd. Was it just food poisoning? Do I have COVID? You know, like, because I think that last year was the year where people were experiencing like intestinal issues when they had COVID. And I was like, crap, you know, but that was not what it was. So it was definitely more along the lines of a food poisoning. Went on with my life. And then in March of this year, I started having this random cough. And that cough was actually caused by acid reflux. So I took some over-the-counter, like the equivalent of Nexium, right, which is omeprazole, I think is how you say it. And took that for, I don't know, a couple of weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever. Like, didn't really think, much about it. Just made sure that I was changing my diet, because I think, at the time, I thought that my acid reflux was being caused by my consumption of energy drink. And then in May, I was in France. I ate my weight in baguettes and butter every single day, and I have no regrets. And croissants, I have no regrets. So while I was there, I was eating some full-fat yogurt. And about 20 minutes after that, I had a really terrible upset stomach. And I was like, oh, that was kind of weird. I've eaten yogurt every day for breakfast with berries and honey my entire life, basically. And same thing happened the next day. And so I just chalked it up to, as I age, I am becoming lactose intolerant. Like, I'm from Wisconsin. This is my worst nightmare. Great. So you're in France and now you're lactose intolerant. I'm home, and then slowly over the next, couple of weeks, everything I ate upset my stomach. Probably at the end of June, it was like every single thing that I was eating would upset my stomach. And so to the point where, and this is where it gets to be TMI. Like, I couldn't leave my house because I was having accidents. And I was like, this is weird. Like, this isn't real. Like, this is not real, So I started to research a little bit about, like IBS and colitis and, food allergies and all of this stuff. And nothing, like nothing made sense. Like I was like, this is not IBS, right? And that was like my initial thought, was that it was like, something like that. And what didn't make sense about IBS is that I am not like, yes, some of my symptoms aligned, but some of the symptoms of IBS did not like fit with my, like, let's call it pathology. Right. And they also don't fit with my lifestyle. And so I was like, this is really weird. Like, how do you, how do you just suddenly become, and I'm thinking, right, too, like, oh, maybe it's food allergies. And like, how do you just suddenly become so sensitive to like almost every single thing that you eat that you're having accidents? Why am I shitting my pants? Like, to the point where you don't want to leave your house, right? So I would go to CrossFit every day. I would come home, I was going to the bathroom 6-8 times a day, like no rhyme or reason. Some days were better than others, and no rhyme or reason to that, and so I started to talk about it, with people. And I talked to like friends at CrossFit and like my nutritionist. And she was like, this is weird. Like, maybe you should try like a low FODMAP diet. And so in July, I started following a low FODMAP diet. And I would say that it helped tremendously. All of a sudden, I'm still having accidents. So embarrassing. But things were definitely better. Like, I would say 85% better. Like, my stomach wasn't as upset. I wasn't having as many trips to the bathroom. It seemed to help, a lot, right? Like, and so, but the downside of that is you cannot stay on a low FODMAP diet forever. It eliminates almost every food group, there's nothing fermented, right? So anything that ferments in your gut, you can't eat. So most fruits and vegetables you can't have, right? And then it's, it's boring. It's eggs, it's white rice, it's, meat, and that, lactose free stuff, but no corn, but, it's hard. It's really hard. And especially when you are trying to lift weights and get stronger, like when you are eliminating some of those food groups, sometimes it's difficult to replace them with something that makes you feel as good, right, as the other thing, right? And so I struggled with that throughout the summer. And then my nutrition coach, just in passing, we were chatting with each other. She said, I wonder if you have SIBO. And I was like, what is that? And so she explained to me what SIBO was, and I will link something here. If you're interested, you can click on that link, and I'll link something in the description below for you as well. She has it, and so she is like, I almost had to quit Olympic weightlifting because of this, and everyone was trying to convince me that I was anxious and that this was something being caused by like my mental health. And I was like, oh, I'm not anxious at all. Like, I'm not, like, this is definitely not. I was on vacation in France when this all started, right? And so she's like, you should get some GI mapping done. And I've never had GI mapping. I didn't know anything about it. I was like, what is that? And she explained to me, like, they can look at your poo and basically tell you what's going on, right? Like, is it a food allergy? Is it something else? Is it something inside your guts? Is it, something you're putting in? And so I messaged my naturopath because I was more comfortable with working with her on this than I was, my own doctor. And that is not a statement about my normal everyday physician assistant that I see. She is fantastic. But I felt like, what, this can just be a stepping stone. And if this GI map comes back with something crazy, then I will go to my PA and get a referral to GI, and we can like do the GI thing. And so, and I already had a routine colonoscopy scheduled because I'm 45. So this is your reminder, go get the camera up your butt. It is not a big deal. It is not a big deal. Go get the camera up your butt. I did. I'm in the 10-year club. Thank you. Right. So there was nothing like, and it was nothing. The prep is the worst part. It's just annoying, but go get the camera up your butt. So emailed my naturopath, told her what was going on. I said, can I get a GI map? And she's like, let's do the SIBO test first. And I was like, okay, and so I was up north at the time. So when I got back, I went and picked up my SIBO test. I did it, and that shit was positive. But what didn't make sense to me is that I was positive. There's two types of SIBO. One of them is the methane version of SIBO. And that's what I was positive for, like off the charts positive, right? And that didn't make sense because the methane SIBO causes constipation. I was literally having accidents and shitting my pants for like 3 months, not every day, but at least a couple times a week. And this test comes back and says, oh no, you're just really constipated. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. And so my naturopath set up an appointment to talk to me, and she's like, you have SIBO. And I was like, right, but why am I having accidents then? And she's like, describe to me what happens. And so I walked her through. I'd be like, okay, say I eat eggs. Within 20 minutes, the urgency to go to the bathroom is so bad that sometimes I can't make it. And she was like, what color is your poo? And I was like, it's like orangey. And she's like, oh, honey, she's like, you also have what they call bile acid malabsorption, or BAM. I will link that here, and in the description below for you to read all about. And so I had two things going on. So the SIBO was one, right, which probably started first. And then the SIBO created, because of the SIBO, I ended up having this bile acid malabsorption happen as well. So I was like, how does this happen? How does this happen? And thankfully, a relatively healthy person. I don't take prescription drugs other than birth control. I get to CrossFit, at least 4 or 5 times a week, whatever. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do drugs anymore. And I was like, how does one get this, right? And she's like, it happens when your gut biome gets out of whack. And I was like, well, how does that happen? And she's like, there can be any number of triggers. And I was like, would food poisoning do it? And she's like, that would have done it. And she's like, when did you have it? And I was like, last December. And she's like, it is possible that event that happened in December was the catalyst, right? Which got you to in March, right? When, I was having acid reflux, right? And then what probably pushed everything over the edge, right, into, where I was full blown symptomatic, right? All the food was bothering me, all of the things, was the fact that I was taking omeprazole. And I am not shitting on that drug. I am not a pharmacist. I know very little about it, other than how it works in the body. And so what happened, right, with the acid reflux was when I started to take the omeprazole, that pushed down my stomach acid, right? Because that's the problem. That's what acid reflux is, right? It's too much acid, right? Okay. And so by doing that, it allowed, right? So if you think that the SIBO was probably already there, right? The methane, SIBO, things were already a little out of whack. Pushing down my stomach acid made that worse, which then created this perfect environment for the methane, what do they call it? Biogens, antigens, methane, whatever. Methogens, we're going with that, methogens, to multiply in the wrong place in my intestine. So instead of the large intestine, they're now in the small intestine. And that created the bile acid malabsorption. I also read that cortisone injections can impact some people's gut biome. I am not a scientist. I am not a researcher on that. I am not saying that could have potentially created a problem for me or exacerbated the problem that already existed. But in the month of March, and also then again in June, I had a cortisone injection in my thumb, and I had a 3-shot series in my knee. And it is possible that if I was already in a weakened state, right, that could have maybe contributed to the problem. Again, I'm not discouraging anyone from getting those. If they work for you, awesome. But I did read some, reliable research and some peer-reviewed studies that cortisone can for some people, create issues with their gut biome. And so I was like, oh my God, it was a perfect storm. So you figure food poisoning, omeprazole, possibly cortisone, creating a problem, right? Inadvertently, the omeprazole created the problem, which led me to write the SIBO methane version of SIBO and the bile acid malabsorption. I know you're all wondering, how do you get rid of this shit and stop shitting your pants? I will tell you. So there is a protocol that you can do to treat SIBO. There are two ways to treat it. One is through antibiotics, and one is through more natural supplemental ways with using supplements, right, is to do it. The supplement track, I believe, is as effective. However, it does take longer. So you could potentially have those symptoms for months longer, where the SIBO treatment with the antibiotics, for me, was 10 days. And so I was put on a combination of sun fiber, which is just a tasteless, odorless, powdered fiber, right, that I would drink once a day. And then I would take 2 different antibiotics, either 2 or 3 times a day. One of those antibiotics is neomycin, and the other one is an antibiotic called Riflaxim or Xifaxim. Xifaxim is very expensive. It is not all insurances cover it. And again, I am not that kind of doctor. I am not providing you with any kind of advice. But it is, if you can get your insurance to cover it, it's great. Otherwise, it's very, very expensive. I was incredibly fortunate that my policy through my employer did cover it. And then the pharmacy had a like coupon discount code thing or something, or like a prescription card that they were able to apply to take care of like what would have been like a $50 copay. And so I paid nothing for it. There are other ways to obtain this medication cheaper outside of the United States. I am not providing you with this advice, but just more for educational purposes. You can also have prescriptions filled if you're in the US, or I'm guessing other countries, in Canada. You just need a valid prescription on file. There are online pharmacies there that a lot of naturopath offices and doctors' offices will work with to obtain medication from Canada that is difficult to obtain in the United States. Got my antibiotics, started a 2-week regimen. By the 4th day, I felt a million times better. I did not have like this random stomach pain that I learned, right, was part of the methane SIBO, which I didn't think of it as bloating or constipation, but it was definitely that. I stopped having accidents, which is great because it's never cute when you can't leave the house because you're going to shit your pants. And then once I finished out the prescription, I checked back in with the nurse practitioner. She said, sometimes we like to do multiple rounds of this. She's like, how do you feel? I said, I feel 1,000% better. I would just like to know, like, what do I do now? Right. Because I want to prevent this from happening again. And so she prescribed me a supplement regimen, right? It's basically just one additional supplement. It's called Modal Pro. Again, I'm not recommending that for you. Please check with your doctor, your naturopath, if you have issues with constipation or gut motility, and that helps keep everything moving. And as a general rule, I don't have gut motility issues, right? You know, I don't suffer from chronic constipation or anything like that normally. And so this just gives me a little bit of like, I guess like a safety net, if you will, just to make sure that everything continues to move out. You don't want anything sitting there, letting the bacteria be where it doesn't need to be, you know, and I've moved on with my life since then. I still have issues with dairy. So yogurt, eggs, stuff like that. I have learned that if I do not make yogurt and eggs a part of my first meal of the day, if they are later in the day, right, as a part of lunch or dinner or snacks, I don't get the GI upset. I tend to get a little GI upset though with yogurt and with eggs specifically. That could resolve over time. It could just be coincidence that it had nothing that has nothing to do with the SIBO, and it's just a natural part of aging and, you know, whatever and blah blah blah. But I've learned to manage that, and that's been fine. Yeah, that's it. But thank you for watching. I just wanted to share this in the hopes that maybe it will help someone else. If you have unexplained gut issues that you've tried some things for, if you've tried the low FODMAP, you've done the elimination diets, you've done all that, and like your symptoms are not improving. you might have SIBO. And I think that a lot of people probably have it and they do not realize it. But definitely work with your doctor. If you have a naturopath, work with them, get a test. It could be something that you're experiencing. It doesn't always have to be IBS, colitis, like all of those things that can be a little bit scary and difficult to manage. It doesn't always have to be like that. Sometimes all you need is 2-week course of antibiotics, and you'll feel better. Again, if you have experienced this, are experiencing it, and you just haven't gotten the answers, I highly encourage you, right, to maybe seek out another opinion on, especially on the SIBO. Get a SIBO test, and just see what it is. And and again, 2 weeks of antibiotics, it might clear it up for you. And so, yeah, all right. And a reminder: go get the camera up your butt. It's important. Don't do that shit to your family. Don't do that. Don't do it. Don't do it. Colon cancer is highly treatable if caught early. So if you are 45 and your doctor is telling you to go get the camera up your butt, go get the camera up your butt. If you have family history, I think insurance companies will now cover a routine colonoscopy at 40 and maybe even younger. So don't be nervous. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Don't be scared. Right. Go get the camera up your butt. And if you're 50, you definitely need to go do it. I'm telling you right now, it's no big deal. And again, mine was routine. It had nothing to do with my SIBO that I was having, the SIBO issues, the SIBO infection, whatever you want to call it. It's not really an infection, but it had nothing to do with that. It was just coincidence that I was at the right age and had it done, and it was great. So that's all I'm going to say. Go get the camera up your butt. All right. I love you. Bye.